Alrighty, daily trading recap for Tuesday, the 8th of March, 2022. Unfortunately, another bad hair day. You know how it goes, but certainly still getting after it in the market with the oil and gas sector just blowing faces off. SPY having a little 0.76% day in the red, still wishy-washy. A non-trend day, obviously coming after that harder trend day we had yesterday. And good reminder for me today that probability percentage is lesser after a trend day to have a second trend day to the same effect, especially to go in the exact same direction. So factoring that in as I want to do more and start stepping a little bit into the, okay, let's just take one MES contract and pick a direction post 15, 30 minutes after the market open and see if we can kind of capitalize or sit and ride on some trend days similar to yesterday and start to capitalize on some moves like that of just very easy, find very nice risk reward levels of easy cuts or just double bottom or double tops area, vice versa, breakout points or just range bound, different things like that. So start throwing that in the mix of potential trades and start accumulating a better sense of how the SPY likes to trade that way. Also want to get into some dollar volume first, just for reference, before we get into more of the trades on the day. NASDAQ, $292 billion volume as of 51 minutes after the close here. Nicely, $505 billion volume on the day. OTC's $4.0 billion volume on the day. Only traded IMPP long once on the little dip buy right again in the morning, and then had some paper trades on IMPP and then still paper on DWAC as well, but that is all really had today. Still, again, just an update on the kind of future spread trading. I'm stepping away from trying to go for that 15 to 30 minutes play out of the open, looking for volatility there. Certainly would have worked beautifully today. But again, I think it's just that risk reward that I'm looking for is just so hard to continue to try to push this strategy each and every day on normal weekdays versus trying to just go all in on a Friday, which is very much more probable and very much more efficient risk reward on Fridays as compared to just kind of blanketing things like how these things would have ended up on Monday. But still, I also was kind of kicking myself a little bit to within that first minute candle, that being the most voluminous or volatile candle of the day based on the little data collection from market hours, that I didn't push harder on the just looking for half a point above, half a point below on the future side there for a little volatility option there. So I think I will start to add that a little bit more on the days ahead coming forward. Also was pushing buttons today on the ES, trying to scalp the SPY that I know I should not have done. Even as I was switching over the instrument on my NinjaTrader to go from MES to ES, I said, I've done this before and it ended horribly. I don't want to be doing this again, but I was just like outside of myself, still pushing the buttons and then going, oh, but there's a nice dip right there. You should get long. And then just screwing myself over. I think I was down like 200 at one point and said, I'm an idiot. I have to put down the shovel. Why didn't I not learn my lesson the first time? And I was able to get to like $25 in the red, climb back out of that hole. And I said, okay, throw that shovel away. I am absolutely done. No more of that. And I'm learning that lesson. Absolutely 100%. I will not be taking a trade if I do not fully understand the risk reward. And it's not just going to be it's green, I'm going to buy a step of stupid trade. That's how I have those $1,000 days in the red from my stupidity that way for how quickly futures can go against me. That is all I wanted to talk about for the introduction. Get into DWAC. Still paper short from last week Friday through TradingView. Carrying, I forget if I covered a little bit off of yesterday, but I think I was still holding yesterday. And looking on the daily compared to volume, kind of taking out that first move initially to get the scaling back in. Not a voluming, panicking type of day, but just that we're kind of, I want to say, correcting a little bit, following the market a little bit more closely, and just pulling back to more appropriate range, what is appropriate on these type of meme stocks. But I kind of lucked out pretty nicely with my short entry of getting in right here, having a nice sit on Monday, and even today getting a panic pretty much right out of the gate and forcing a nice little cover of pretty much the quarter or half remaining of my position that I had paper there, and an even nice little dip buy opportunity. You can see it on the volume playing out there for 10%, getting anywhere from around 7.2-ish. Perfectly tapped 79 there for the top of that little recent dip high. Getting short after that nice little short again from that bounce. Kind of playing out similar to like how an OTC types of trade of those type of panic dip buy opportunities. So good to see there on not an insane amount of volume and a non-hot sector ticker for DWAC, but still certainly a very recognizable and hot name. It's not just a nobody name. So DWAC. So I'm still holding a few shares short through paper. I think there could be a little bit more downside. It's just trying to squeeze everything I can because it is paper. It's not a real position. Just being very experimental with it and educational with how this likes to trade. So very educational today, certainly. Did trade IMPP as well. IMPP. This one I took long. Man, we were just getting some great moves or great continuations still even into market open today from a lot of these oil and gas tickers. And IMPP did the same exact thing, just absolutely ripping faces, getting back above VWAP around 8:15 Eastern time frame here and still generating new highs just after 9:15. Coming into the open, just started dunking. Looked like it was going to be a little squeezy-ish and then just wrecked faces, halted, I think twice here. No, just once. Bought as it was right at that little VWAP area and just, again, kind of lingering, not immediately dying off. And I just felt something in me saying, okay, I got to start in long, starting in with 10 and then started scaling in more. As this is working, I'm thinking, okay, we could just have an absolute slam break to the upside for, even though it is insanely up. It's up too much. I mean, this thing could just continue to rip. So sizing in more, getting 30 shares max position size. They're still not really willing yet to take a larger position size on these ones. For still getting my toes back in the water, getting my feet wet again for these small cap types of trades. And yeah, just really of introducing myself again to these momentum tickers versus an obvious specific setup. You could call this a dip and rip, but again, similar to how it did on Monday, it's just too quick of a dip and rip for me to call that or classify it as a pure, beautiful dip and rip trade. And for the mania that these stocks are generating, they're certainly not just following precise, predictable trading patterns, but just playing them as they are. And I think that's going to be a lot of what I continue to do over the next few days with this specific sector as well. That it's just, I'll mention at the conclusion of this video that, I'm not really seeing anything so beautiful or knocking my socks off, but it's just going to be how I am approaching these stocks today, that I don't really carry any hard bias from the previous day, but just come to each market open and each print of a tick to say, what are you showing? Like, where are the sidelines? Where are the ideologies lined up on this specific ticker on this specific minute? It can change with the wind and it can change on a dime. So just being really ready and willing to pivot and adapt to whatever it throws at me. And I think that's being such a small size allows me to do that. And then, of course, being unable to short with my stupid margin account through Trade Zero at this time. But still getting paper short at the break of this, what I thought was a little wedge above VWAP as it was holding that little range-bound trade there. Started in with quite an incredible downside move there for today. And that happened across pretty much the whole sector. That, again, how I related to yesterday, there wasn't really a specific leader, but with these ones, the sentiment today was surely big red days. INDO, similar type of thing. ENSV, harder red day, bigger upside candle. 9, if I could type that, 9. HUSA, CEI, all of these just offering pretty hard red days, pretty parabolic symbols similar to how those OTC sectors like to move, or the just normal predictable penny stock framework tickers like to move. So playing off of that and being ready to accept those moves as they came and not trying to force them before they even showed up. So yeah, very unlikely. I didn't really even check what the borrow fees would have been through Trade Zero. I don't think I can, but regardless of if I would have even gotten filled as it's starting to break below VWAP here and start to pick up speed coming into a halt, what the borrow fees would have been, all those different factors. Yeah. So I would assume it would probably be greatly unlikely that I would have actually gotten a position here. But I was pushing that button very soon after it started breaking to the downside of this little range here, breaking under 8.5. So, shoulda, coulda, woulda at that point. But very nice covers, covering after the unhalt here. Coulda, shoulda, woulda on that one. Been covering some into that halt range, giving myself some padding over that little time elapsed duration. Allowing it to come all the way back up to VWAP to test that range there, not setting a premature stop that has just screwed me over so many times. It's saying, like, oh, well, I just want to secure profits as they're there and just not play with fade for this thing. But how many times have they done this over and over again? And this one was a very hard rejection off of that VWAP touch, but of just allowing it to breathe. And from sitting from such a beautiful position of power, having the authority to be able to do that and already secure profits with that paper trade. allowing it to just continue to dump, selling off or covering into some more after this secondary halt here, and still holding a little bit paper through TradingView into tomorrow. We'll see where we end up, if we get any continuation on the gap downside or what tomorrow's morning session brings for that. But very exciting educational experience that I'm very excited to then lay upon the next hot sector move that happens similar to this. This is just all, going through the training runs and practice trials for when I have the real position size to be able to take these types of trades, to be able to sit through these types of things. So very excited for that and thankful for these opportunities to have the paper trades, to be able to just watch them live and see those level 2 time and sales go through there and just sit through the emotions all the way through. So it looks like I wrote in my journal here, it looks like for my long position here in this little dip buy, I thought we were going to actually halt for this 938 candle. So I was selling more into here, wherever this little top was, 925-ish, around that range. But sure enough, it didn't halt. And then just ended up going and put my break even for the rest half of the remaining shares that I had. But that was ultimately just a little bit too soon before it did actually break to the downside and show that upside was definitely over for the morning session, at least on IMPP specifically. So that is all I really want to talk about. Keeping it nice and short, simple. Again, like I mentioned or alluded to on IMPP, specifically for that hot oil sector, I don't think, or even as I'm looking at my scans, I just don't see anything that's blowing my socks off crazily right now. I think I'm still sitting pretty with this IMPP short of, that's kind of the sentiment that you have to be sitting from, of where you're sitting, specifically in your position, your price fill, and allowing these things to, if we do get more gap down, further continuation tomorrow, that's very nice and beautiful. That is only the trade, but trying to place a position now in this after hours, or thinking that, maybe tomorrow would be the best place to identify a position. I just don't see that specifically for me. So I still think it's going to be a lot of that same mentality that I've been carrying these past 2 days with this sector of, I have zero bias and zero forcing of what I want to see happen, but of just allowing it to do what it wants to do and kind of read the tea leaves, read the room of what's happening, to say, okay, well, we are turning pretty sharply here. This could be the rollover, or hey, we're squeezing pretty nicely. There's a lot of people jumping in on the short side. They're about to get squozen. Let's follow along with that trend specifically. So yeah, not having a real shorting account and keeping my size very small alongside is allowing me that opportunity to just be very clear perspective wise, to open my eyes to realize what's actually happening on the chart versus seeing such a bias on it and then realizing, trying to battle the pain emotionally of, okay, now I'm down in this position. Now, do I want to make up that loss, or what do I think the chart's actually going to do? That is all it is what is the chart actually going to do? And that's great learning experience all around for me on the day specifically. That is all I had. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.